Welcome, artists. This video is for those of you who, rather than inking by hand on your paper, decided that you wanted to ink digitally. Now that, of course, still means you're drawing it by hand with pencil and then photographing it and uploading it. But once it's in there, then you're going to digitally ink, whether it be a mouse or with a stylus, over that line art. So to get there, first things first, you're going to want to make certain that you photograph your work very cleanly by taking it and positioning your phone or a camera so that it's perfectly parallel with the image. You want to make certain it's well lit and has no shadows. Maybe bring it near a window, has no shadows cast across it, and then photograph having changed your settings on your phone to ensure that it's at a very high resolution. Because remember, you want at least resolution 300 and a large file to start with that you can later shrink. All right. Once it's in, then, like you see here, I've got bombed my sketch uploaded, and it's really thin and crisp because this is the pencil work. If I zoom in, before I do anything, I'm going to clean it. So I go to Image, Adjustments, and Levels. And by tugging on the white box, it'll intensify the white pixels. By tugging on the black, it'll darken the pencil, just so it's a little easier to see. All right? So I'm going to bring it up a bit. Then I'm going to make a new layer. Now, this is essential. I want to ink on a separate layer from my line art so that I can manipulate it. Otherwise, I can't. It's just drawn directly onto the canvas. So I'm going to zoom in. Now, you might use a mouse or you might use a stylus, right, to draw on. But whatever you use, it's going to take some time. You're going to need some patience, and you're going to need to know this. You're going to use the brush tool. And you're going to need to know radius so that you can adjust the size for varied line widths. Now, you're going to use the knowledge we accrued from last week when we talked about line weight, when you emphasize and de-emphasize lines. You want to vary it because it's going to be more interesting, but you want to vary it strategically. So remember, you're considering depth and you're considering weight. So I want to know how to adjust the size for that variation, and I want to remember hardness also has to be considered below here too, because if you'll notice here, say 50%, it's hazy. It'd be even hazier at 0. All right. And that's not helpful when I want precision. So make certain that hardness is up to the top. Right. And then let's zoom in and change to a good size for our inking. You're going to probably zoom in and out regularly so that you can see how you're doing. Make it just a wee bit smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to start drawing on that new layer. All right, not bad and fairly smooth. And that's because I'm getting a little assistance. So let's go here. This is the third and final tool you're going to want to know for this inking. It's called smoothing. Now, if I bring it down to 0, it's going to translate exactly my own shaky hand to the digital canvas, which frankly isn't terrible. But you can see those little bumps in there. Well, if I bump up smoothing, it's going to take a little longer to process my drawing. Like you'll notice like a millisecond hesitation before it appears. But it's going to naturally smooth out your lines. You're going to get an assist digitally from the program. So if I go all the way to 100, really crisp. And if I'm a little down, I can always use the move tool. Say here, say I was a little too low, I can move it up then. Now, I'm putting this on a separate layer, but if I start inking multiple things, well, I can't just move it all at once, and the move tool will do that. I have to separate them from each other, so I can use the lasso tool to target particular parts and move it about. All right? But I want to make certain that I vary it, so I can have some lines tapered, some thin, some thick, and I'm using the logic that we learned about depth and weight to achieve that. Okay? So you can even make multiple layers for different parts, maybe for a face, for an outline. Make your life easier, and tune in for the next session.